Hi, welcome to Daily Records, and today's album is an album that is near and dear to my heart because it is the soundtrack to one of my all-time favorite movies, but it's also done by one of my all-time favorite artists. It is Bob Dylan's soundtrack to the Sam Peckinpah film Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. Now, this is a soundtrack album, but it is composed of material written by Bob Dylan. Now, this is his 12th album. It came out on July 13th, 1973, and it's a short album. It's only about 35 minutes long, and really there's only about 2 songs on the album. There's the Billy theme that comes back and is a recurring theme, and most people know Knocking on Heaven's Door from the soundtrack, which is a big hit song. The movie starred Chris Christopherson, as seen here in a scene from the movie, but Bob Dylan was also in the movie, playing a part of Alias was the name of the character, Harry Dean Stanton. It's an awesome film. Now, I'm a big fan of Sam Peckinpah. Now, a lot of people enjoy The Wild Bunch, and I do understand that The Wild Bunch is probably Sam Peckinpah's most realized film. It's very complete, and it tells a great story. Of course, Peckinpah was a big influence on a lot of the violent filmmakers like Quentin Tarantino and people like that came down the line. Of course, a lot of the realistic 70s sort of cinema was influenced by Peckinpah. Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid as a film suffered a lot of problems throughout the production. Peckinpah was drinking pretty heavily. They were down in Mexico, and the whole production was fraught with a lot of just different things that was brought on by different people. And so it wasn't the easiest film. And the result ended up being a mixed affair. In the first cut of the film, it was edited by people outside of Peckinpah's circle. And so the film was sort of released to lukewarm reviews. The same thing with the soundtrack album. But in retrospect, like most things, after it has time to sit and settle in, what we're left with is a really, really nice album of nice acoustic music as recorded by Bob Dylan. Now, I'm going to make a confession here. There are certain melodies on this album that absolutely bring tears to my eyes. Now, maybe it's my association with the images in the film that draws me to it. And so the detractors to this album will say that, you know, there's a lot of sort of half-baked ideas. It's not fully formed. And yeah, if you've been listening to Dylan up to this point, with the exception of the Self-Portrait album, which I think, you know, is another one of those that has mixed feelings or mixed reviews. But this is one of those that to me, I can put it on and I can enjoy it from top to bottom. No, my mind's not blown by any of the songs here, but the theming of the album, which kind of mirrors the theming of the movie, that Pat and Billy were friends, and Pat later becomes the sheriff and is sort of charged with gunning down and bringing in Billy the Kid, and sort of the conflict, which is kind of a Sam Peckinpah theme, are sort of these old guys stuck in their traditions, having to be just thrust into sort of new laws and new rules. And maybe that's the thing that appeals to me about the movie, and I think that parlays very well into the soundtrack. Of course, everybody knows Knocking on Heaven's Door. That was the hit from this album, and definitely worthy. To me, the song itself was kind of short and really relatively compared to the other songs on the album. It's one of the shorter songs, but recorded in a quick way, and then later it was released as, you know, the soundtrack to the movie. And of course, you see across the top, Bob Dylan soundtrack, and it's one of the few soundtracks that he ever did. If probably not one of the only, if you don't count things like Masked and Anonymous and some of the other stuff he did, some of the live things. But this is actually a true soundtrack to the film. But today's record, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, one of my favorites from one of my favorite movies by Bob Dylan. Comment below, like, share, and subscribe. And if you would, follow me on Instagram and Twitter. It's TommyBurton75. And thanks for watching.